All right, we are live, sir. Malcolm, how are you today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I appreciate you having me.
Oh, that's easy. We haven't talked in a while though. We
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know you've been busy, man. The interest rate environment is interesting right now, so I'm sure you guys' phones have been ringing off the hook. So I don't take it personally. I just, I connect with you when I can.
Oh yeah, so it's my fault. Uh,
Uh, otherwise I got to blame myself, and that's tougher to do.
yeah, no question, no question. So look, I have like 1 million followers
Yeah,
that watch these on Thursdays,
humble brag or just a regular brag.
like a big hyperbole, like
Yeah.
huge. Yeah, so I always say we have to give them a couple minutes to all flock into this channel here so that we can, prepare to speak to them.
Yeah.
So yeah. So no, thank you. We're streaming primarily. I got the idea to do this because I saw this red dot on the left hand side of my profile on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't realize exactly what it was. And then I started to do more research on it, and it's like, oh, I can go live now on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
And supposedly it's a special privilege that they give some people. I don't know why they gave it to me, but anyway, I'm grateful for it. And so I've been since the pandemic was announced back in mid March, and we got sheltered in place and everything. I've been doing these Thursday 2 o'clock live streams, and
Oh, I
so
know. I've caught a couple of them.
okay, good,
You've been
thank you.
burning up my feed.
Thank you for your support, man. So the thing and the whole premise behind it is like, all right, I'm here, and I used to write in my business plans anyway. The one that I never gave you that you were holding me accountable for this year. I apologize, but I digress. But I said that I would do interviews with industry friends and relationships that I have, right? And so, as I always say, it would be a shame that I have all these people that we know in the network and I don't share it with other people, don't share them. And so I do mortgages and, mortgage financing, but there's a bigger picture of adding value to the folks that you care about that have supported your business and that are your clients and such.
Yeah.
And so what I've been doing is bringing people on this live stream for about 20, 30 minutes every Thursday to just introduce them to the network and also to provide information that adds value to them. And so you're a big part of that today. So Malcolm Ethridge, can you tell us real quick or take as much time as you need, who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into the reason why we're here.
Sure. So as you alluded to, but I'm sure you don't need me to remind you, I am a huge supporter of Fortis and everything you guys are building. I would have worn my Fortis t-shirt, but it's not clean, but I am rocking my Fortis blue, so I feel like I'm halfway there.
Thank you.
But anyway, so yeah, Malcolm Ethridge, certified financial planner, I guess is my formal official title that it says on my business cards, at least. Essentially, all I do in my day-to-day is help people figure out the best way to save, spend, and invest their resources. A lot of the folks that I work with happen to be senior managers and executives, and I guess some small business owners in tech. They tend to have fairly unique needs in the world of personal finance because a good portion of their income tends to be in stock in the company they work for. So, working on concentrated stock positions and things like that is kind of my bag, I guess, is the word the kids used to use.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I don't even know if they still use it, but I think so.
I guess your generation, you guys say that's my jam.
Nah, I never said jam before.
But yeah, so that's the gist of what my day-to-day is. So a lot of the stuff you see that I'll post on LinkedIn or wherever else is really geared toward the pre-retiree crowd, the Gen X-ish crowd in their 40s and 50s that they've done well for themselves and they're trying to figure out like the best ways to go about managing resources to make sure they're not making really big mistakes or missing out on really big opportunities.
Right. No, that's awesome. I've seen a big shift with you, Malcolm, on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
You've been providing some great content, and you actually write this stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. It's all from this right here.
Yeah. So your head's exploding. You are a smart dude, one of the smartest guys I know. But like what were you thinking when you started to do that? Like why'd you start to write these blog? Would you consider it a blog?
Yeah, yeah, and
Okay.
I
And
appreciate
articles.
that segue that you didn't even know you were giving me, but I do have a blog that's set to launch next week.
Okay.
So the Malcolm on Money blog officially will be out in the atmosphere. I think August 6th is the launch date. So yes, it is a blog. It's basically the place that I just download all the ideas that come to my head because I'm having a conversation with somebody and the question came up once and it's kind of like, it's kind of interesting. It made me stretch a little bit to answer that. Then the question came up a second time and I said, that's interesting. Somebody else is going through this. And if the question comes up a third time, then I say, all right, this is something I've got to write about.
Right.
So I just keep a log of those kind of things, not necessarily a written log every time. Sometimes I'll just keep it, in my head. But as those kind of questions come up from clients and prospective clients that I talk to on a regular basis, I just jot down some ideas, and then eventually it becomes a full-fledged blog post.
Got it. Got it. Well, you're doing a good job, and a lot of people are watching. So thank you for that information. It's always really good information and good to see. Um, so the reason we're here today, everyone that's watching this, we're up to about 999,000 so far. So everyone that's watching this, uh, just look Malcolm up. He's online in LinkedIn and everything. And like you mentioned, he's a financial advisor. Really good one too. But the reason we're here today is you are co-host of a podcast, and the podcast is called Manage Your Damn Money. And tell us about that. Like how that gets started. Why are you guys doing it? And what are you seeing like in regards to an impact on Manage Your Damn Money?
Yeah, so it's kind of evolved over the years in a bunch of different ways, but my co-host Ben Carter is the one who created it with our producer Will Harris. So the two of them, when they initially cooked it up like 7-8 years ago, I guess at this point, it was designed to be like a YouTube series, and this was before COVID had locked everybody in their house, so everybody has become sort of a YouTube superstar and subject matter expert. This was well before this environment, so you can imagine how it was just a labor of love that these guys had concocted, because there wasn't really a space out there in the personal finance arena that was addressing millennials that wasn't trying to sell them some sort of product. And that really has been the focus the entire time through all the different iterations that it's gone through. So now, as you know, because you've been a guest on our podcast before, it now serves as a TV show. We actually do record it in a TV studio, and it gets distributed on a few local channels across the country. It also serves as a podcast that's available on literally every podcast channel there is out there. But that was a long time coming. So we're two dudes recording in a library at one point, in one of the quiet rooms in the library. And then, we eventually spread out and went to a really low budget studio, like a sound recording studio that primarily was for folks recording like music albums and stuff. And we lovingly refer to it as being in the basement back then, because that's what it felt like. And if you look at the old footage, you'll understand why. To now where it sits, or I guess pre-COVID, where it sat in an actual studio with legitimate equipment, and it's recorded in HD and all kind of pretty stuff. To now where we're doing it similar to what you and I are doing now. We do it on Facebook Live every Monday night, and get it out that way, because again, we can't necessarily meet in public. So the premise behind it again was just to kind of give a place for younger people to be able to come and have conversation about money, finances, all things they're interested in and concerned about, where it's not 100% geared toward retirement. Because if you think about all the conversations you've probably ever had with anybody who's a financial professional in the past, the very first thing they ask you when you sit down is when do you plan to retire and how much do you think you'll spend? And then that's
Right.
the conversation, right? You tell me those two things. I'll tell you how much you need to save along the way based on how much you have today. I'll print out a really fancy report with 100 pages of disclosures and send you on your way. You're good to go. And we wanted to do something that was different from that, that actually spoke to the folks that were, you know, looking to buy their first house, wanting to know how to pay off their student loans most effectively, or wondering about changing jobs, or, you know, negotiating a salary or whatever. And so as often as we can, we have a guest on who's an expert in something like that, like a mortgage guy, for example, just to give the intricacies of, you know, the home buying process and such. But then also the conversation is very relaxed and casual, because we do what I consider to be a very good job of mixing in a lot of like pop culture references, a lot of current events. It's very much entertaining. And so you don't even necessarily realize through the course of, you know, 40-45 minutes that you've just been educated on something, because you spent so much time listening to these two guys just riffing about, you know, the NFL season.
Right.
And somehow that managed to pertain to, you know, investing in the stock market.
Right. And I that's the first thing that I told you all when we walked off the stage after I did the podcast for you all.
Mhm.
Wow, I forget when that was. Was it like January-ish or something? It
You know
was
what? Time is moving so slow right now in the age of COVID. It could have been
yeah.
60. If you told me it was 6 years ago, I'd be like, all right, that sounds about right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I felt so comfortable. You know, I almost wanted to like lean my chair all the way back, kick my feet up on the table. It was a great conversation. It was a lot
We
of
don't have
fun.
any
And
lazy boys on set, so you we'll have to get a recliner on set next time.
yeah. And so like speaking of, you know, COVID pandemic, what what we're talking money and millennials. That's what, you know, manage your damn money is based on, you know, speaking money and talking primarily to millennials. I think you can reach any audience, but like what are some of the things that you're advising people? What are your thoughts around, you know, tips for managing your money during, you know, this financial crisis that we're having right now?
Yeah, so again, in the very narrow lane of being geared toward millennials, so folks in their late 20s, early to late 30s, um, we're really talking a lot more about like security, and, you know, the fact that like we as millennials are in a super unique position, that we lived through what we thought at the time was a once in a lifetime financial crisis in 2008. So, you know, a lot of us, like myself and my co-host Ben, graduated into that 2008 financial crisis world, where, you know, you got a person who's just now graduating from college with zero work experience and a bachelor's degree, competing for a job against somebody that's got 10 years of work experience and a PhD for the same position, right? That
Right.
was just like a mind-blowing time. And we thought that once we got to the other side of it, it would be something that we could talk about in the past in the rearview mirror, and it would be something that like, remember that time when dot dot dot, but here we go again, you know, 10 years later, let's call it, where all of a sudden we're in the middle of a health crisis that turned into a
Oh,
financial crisis.
yeah.
And the folks who we're talking about were literally just now starting to get on solid ground, right?
Hmm.
Because it took 5, 6, 7 years in a lot of cases for folks to kind of find their footing and like feel like they legitimately had a handle on their finances. And so a lot of the stuff that we're talking about now as it pertains to millennials is about security. So like that emergency fund that you hear about, that folks are supposed to have 3 to 6 months saved, depending on whether you're a single or a couple. And if you're a couple, whether the other person in the household has an income too. So those kind of things are the conversations that traditionally nobody wants to hear about it, because it's not exciting. It's not sexy. It's like, oh, you're telling me to save more money. Okay,
Right.
that's great. Like, I don't want to do that.
But
Now
why?
people are like, well, how do I do that emergency fund thing? How do I know if I have enough? How much is enough? Like those kind of things are the conversations that are coming up a lot more now. Separate and apart from that, for the folks that, you know, they're high earning millennials, what we in my business refer to as Henry's, high earners who are not rich yet. For those people, there's opportunities to be strategic about how they approach the market and what is happening right now. And one of the pieces I just recently wrote for Business Insider was about ways that high earning millennials can take advantage of the next financial downturn. And one of the ways that I mentioned in there was having some cash available for when the market does fall again, like it did in March of this year. So if that means getting your 401k contributions into your retirement plan earlier than December, because normally the way you allocate a percentage of your paycheck to your 401k plan, it's scheduled out so that by December it all gets there. But if you accelerate those payments now to make sure that you get the cash in there earlier today, you might have an opportunity to take advantage of a down market if one presents itself at some point, later this year heading up to the election. So things like that are tactical, simple, that you can take advantage of are a lot of what we spend time focused on.
Right. Any other tips? Like, for instance, there's been some people that have, been getting, the unemployment benefits and such. $600 a week, from my understanding. I think that's run out, right?
Yeah, it runs out tomorrow.
All right.
Unless all of a sudden some Hail Mary scenario happens in Congress, and it doesn't sound like they're anywhere close to that. It runs out starting tomorrow.
Right. So besides providing the basic shelter and, benefits that it offers, like, of having that $600 a week, like, someone that's, possibly that's not enough money for them, like, what tips would you advise them, or what kind of questions have you been seeing out there, like, for someone like that's maybe lost some income?
Well, so what I have learned is that the certain states, I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but there's like 12 states out there that have stepped in and already enhanced their unemployment benefits, so that when the $600 supplemental benefit runs out from the federal government, the state will step in and make up either all or a portion of that, depending on which state you live in. So there are some, changes being made already to try and accommodate, because we recognize that in a place where we've got 30 million people unemployed, everybody needs some help, right? Like, it's not a thing where you can point to it and go, oh, well, they should have planned better, or, oh, they should have done better. Because you got a lot of major corporations that are also applying to the federal government for support and benefits, right? So if anybody should have done better and prepared for a rainy day, it's Delta and United Airlines. It's not the average, mom and pop, who in some cases are living paycheck to paycheck. So there's definitely programs that exist. They're all at the state level, though. There aren't any other federal benefits right now. Maybe there's something that will be announced, after Congress gets done with this next CARES Act. But as of right now, you've got to go to your state's website to find what unemployment insurance benefits they have that you can apply for and might be eligible for.
Understood. And so we'll get back to manage your podcast again. So who's your next guest?
I actually don't know.
Are you, because you haven't been interviewing anybody recently?
We haven't. We had some logistical issues for one, but also, as you know, I was out for 2 months. My wife and I just had our first little one, and so that was from a time scheduling perspective, disruptive to our ability to schedule folks out in advance. So we'll probably get a few of those on the roster soon, but as far as who we've already gotten committed, I can't even say with any surety yet.
I see. And then like, how besides just having to do this through Zoom and Facebook Live and such, how have you been impacted aside from that? And then what plans do you have to maybe pivot and maybe do things a little bit differently? Or are you finding that Facebook Live is going to really be that medium that you use to push it forward now?
So the conduit that we use, similar to yourself, is StreamYard, that actually allows you to, do the live broadcast, but also pull down the audio.
Yes.
The focus for us is and has always been the audio side of it. The podcast is kind of the place we really focus the most. So as long as the quality of sound for the podcast is decent enough that our regular listeners don't go away and never come back, we don't necessarily have a significant drop off. There is probably some energy that you lose from being in the room with somebody face to face that
Yeah.
you can't quite recreate from your basement or wherever. But other than that, I think we probably still have, we've been doing this long enough that we got the formula down, and it's just a matter of, kind of to your point before, picking guests who are interesting enough and unique enough that our audience stays.
Got it. How many listeners?
I don't know the exact number. I think we average somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 a month.
That's great.
But you're asking the wrong guy.
I
The
know.
technical pieces behind the scenes.
I'm waiting for.
I don't want to share it with you. I really just don't even bother to get into the weeds too
Yeah,
much.
but it's in the thousands though.
It's in the thousands. It's 4,000 to 5,000 a month.
Right.
It may have come down some since COVID. I don't actually know, but what I do know from listening to other people talk about their metrics is that because people traditionally listen to podcasts on their commute, it's come down some for everybody across the board. So I have to assume it's affected us too, but I don't even know.
Well, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because you want to put out as great of content and quality as possible. And then so if people are searching for information, they're going to find you.
Well, so part of the reason that I was saying before that the show and the passion for the show has evolved over the years is initially, when it started, a part of me probably wanted to, at some point, have the same level of recognition as like Susie Orman, who is the financial guru, quote unquote, for boomers, or Dave Ramsey or somebody like that, who's still that financial guru, but they're speaking to the 60 and 70-year-old crowd and don't really care too much about the younger folks. Their answer to everything is don't buy Starbucks and don't buy avocado toast, right? So initially, I think I was trying to fill that void in a way and hoping that it grew enough that I could at some point become that. But frankly, what I've come to realize in the last couple of years is I really don't care how many people we have that listen to it, from day to day or even on a monthly basis. What I've found is that my industry, given what I do, is super elitist and exclusive. And what I mean by that is we tend to only really worry about folks who are rich already and work with them to help them stay rich and get richer. Right. And so like my firm, for example, my team, our minimum planning fee is $5,000 a year. Minimum asset size is $500,000, which excludes probably like 90% of the whole US population. Right. So what I've found is that doing this podcast in the way that we do it and giving away a lot of this information for free that people pay me pretty good money to deliver to them and to handle on their behalf on a regular basis allows me to help more people at one time, to not have to feel money dumb, I guess, to use a very like vague phrase. And so if all I do is kind of help one person who listens to the episode figure out the situation, that they're in and make a better decision, then I'm happy with that, which is part of the reason I don't focus on the metrics anymore so much as just the content itself and making sure that we're putting out a good product.
Got it. That's good stuff. So, number one tip basically is like, let's not focus on necessarily the retirement aspect of your planning. Let's see if we can find some opportunity areas with the market as it changes, right?
Right. Let's focus on the years in between now and retirement.
Okay. Awesome. So look, this is what we're going to do. Two things. Put you on the spot here. Dead or alive. Who would be your person that you'd like to sit and like have breakfast, lunch, dinner, coffee, something like that with? And why?
That's probably a really easy one for me, honestly. As you know, I'm a huge fan of my namesake Malcolm X, and so if I had the opportunity to sit down and have a 5-minute, 10-minute, 20-minute conversation with him, I would jump at that in a heartbeat.
What would be the first question you'd ask?
Would you still dedicate your life to your cause today? So given what's transpired in the last 50 or so years since he was assassinated, just looking at where the world is, how far we have or have not come, would you still make the same commitment?
That's awesome. So great question.
Yeah.
Great question. That
I've
you
been
can't
waiting
get
on
the
that
answer
day.
to, unfortunately. I said, unfortunately, the question you can't get the answer to.
But you see, I've been walking around waiting for the day to have that breakfast. I've been, just in case it happens, I'm ready.
I can tell. So listen, any parting words for us before I do mine? Like any parting words?
Just, make sure you listen to and subscribe to the podcast, please. And after you get done listening to an episode, definitely drop us a review. Helps more people find the podcast who are searching organically. And share it with your friends, because we've got over 100 episodes now in the queue for folks to binge listen to. So hopefully there's at least one in there that is good enough that, they feel the need to share.
Got it. And then so professionally for what you do, you're, like we mentioned, great financial advisor. How can we find you? And then also, how can we find Manage Your Damn Money?
Yeah, so managerdamnmoney.com is our main website for that, or facebook.com/managerdamnmoney. And then I personally, as you mentioned, I blow up LinkedIn on a daily basis. So that's probably the easiest way to find me. But also starting next week on August 5th or 6th, the Malcolm on Money blog will drop. And so you'll be able to find me there and subscribe to my monthly newsletter as well.
Got it. Well, thank you for your time today. You can hang out with us after I end this broadcast or whatever. Stay on for me real quick.
Sure.
But one of the things, Malcolm, that I always talk about is relationships, DNA, and having a plan. And so I think this conversation today and just about every one of them have encompassed that. Like I talk about building relationships before you need them. Like, we met through friends of friends, and we kind of knew each other indirectly, right? And then we ended up. I was talking to Ben in a commute, sitting in traffic one day, and he's just like, "Can you say that again for me? What you just said?" And so I'm like, "Say what?" He's like, "Just tell me what you just said just 2 seconds ago about your transition in your career." So I told him. He's like, "Well, hang on, look, just." We want to interview on the podcast. And I'm like, okay. And then I come and we do the podcast, and, you and I hit it off. We, have some things in common, started to talk more. And so that's the one thing that I talk to people about is like, you just, you kind of never know what direction things are going to lead you. And you always want to make sure that you keep your relationships intact, because you just don't know when there are going to be opportunities to work together. And then you and I have, built a friendship and a relationship in which we can hold each other accountable, professionally and also personally, with you being a new father and stuff. And so that's something that I've really been honing in on with people, just to focus on that relationship piece, the whole DNA aspect of it. Both of us, realize who we are and why we do what we do, and like you specifically now, you got some people counting on you, brother.
Tell me about it.
One very new person that's really counting on you to succeed. And then lastly, this whole thing and everything we're doing, the reason that you're writing, and the part of the reason why you have the podcast that you're doing, the reason why I'm bringing my network in and introducing and giving information is about having a plan. We just talked about don't wait until it's too late. The retirement aspect of it, you can save for it, but focus on the things, the time from today until then. And that's a part of your plan and your roadmap to get there. So like I said, just everybody just focus on relationships, knowing who you are in your DNA, and then having a plan. As always, if there's anything that I or Fortis Mortgage or anyone in my network can do to help you, I am here. We are here to help you out in any way. Stay safe. Malcolm, I don't mean to sound political or anything, but they say these masks help us to eliminate the spread of COVID. And I firmly believe that. And if scientists are saying that takes away the risk of us getting it, guys, just whether it's your right or not, just wear your mask just to keep everybody safe. I'm willing to do so to protect you and your grandmother and everybody that's around. So again, without getting too political, I just say just stay safe. And just try your best to be as safe as possible and healthy. But everyone have a great day, and we will see you next Thursday. Malcolm, thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
All right, I appreciate you. Hang tight here. We're going to end this one.